Hello, and welcome to Unknowable, the podcast where we talk about all things mysterious, unusual, or unknowable. I'm Justine.
And I'm Gray. Some weeks we break down one larger mystery between the two of us. Other weeks we pick two smaller mysteries on a theme and teach each other about them based on our own independent research. This week, we have two mysterious deaths to investigate.
Very mysterious.
You ready? You want to go first?
I'll go first.
All right.
So.
What you got?
Have you ever heard of the Hinterkaifeck murders?
I've heard of it.
From me.
Yes. Definitely from you. I vaguely know that it was a mysterious murder, and I know it's German.
It is German. Okay. Let me tell you. I don't remember how I first heard about this, and I don't really know why I'm so fascinated by this case, but I am. So, the evening of March 31st, 1922, back in the 20s, the 6 inhabitants of a farmstead near the hamlet of Kaifeck. So,
adorable.
Yeah, I know. It's really cute. About 43 miles north of Munich, Germany, were killed with a mattock from their own farm, which a mattock, by the way, I did not know. I was like, what the hell is that? Is a hand tool that's sort of similar to a pickaxe. Like, it's got a big wooden handle, and then the head is kind of stout and metal, and usually, like, both sides are kind of different for different purposes, but generally, you know.
Okay. No, I think I know what you're talking about.
Beaten with one.
Right.
Yeah. And this murder has never been solved, of course. So, a little backstory here with the Hinterkaifeck. The word Hinterkaifeck has the common German prefix hinter, which means behind, because this farm was kind of hidden in the woods about a kilometer north of this main part of this little town called Kaifeck.
Okay.
So it's Hinterkaifeck, it's behind Kaifeck. And its isolation kind of in the middle of all these woods is part of the reason why nobody has any idea what happened. None of the neighbors lived close enough to see anything. So before the murders happened, there were some weird things observed by the family kind of in and around the farm. There had been a family maid that 6 months beforehand had quit because she was insistent that the house was haunted.
Interesting.
Which is interesting. The father, the sort of patriarch of the family, had found sort of a strange newspaper on the property that same month, which doesn't seem weird now, but I guess at the time, you know, with all the houses being so isolated, it's not like it would be accidentally delivered. It, you know, was a paper that nobody nearby subscribed to, so it was just odd that it was even there. Like, who was on the property?
It's not like it's 2018 where you could get, you know, newspapers from all over the world.
Yeah.
Anywhere.
Exactly. Like, it was from, I think it was a paper from Munich, but still, like, just nobody that he knew that lived nearby subscribed to it. So it wasn't like the mailman had it and was like, whoops.
Okay.
So that's a little strange. And the creepiest part was that just a few days before the murders, he mentioned to some of the neighbors that he saw these footprints in the fresh snow that led from the woods to their house, which isn't odd in itself because people would sometimes be in the woods and would come by to, you know, see if somebody was around. But the creepy part was that there were no footprints leading back away from the house.
Oof.
Yeah. So it wasn't like somebody had come by and nobody was home and they left and went back to the woods. Like, somebody came from those woods and didn't leave.
Wow.
Ugh. Yeah.
Okay.
Which gives me chills. They had one of their house keys went missing. They'd hear footsteps in the attic, but nobody was ever found when they searched. Ugh. So it was just kind of creepy, like, yeah, with the other maid leaving, thinking it was haunted. It's like, what's going on in this house?
Right.
So on April 4th, several days after the murders, was when the bodies were found.
Okay. Several
people had stopped by the house in the time between March 31st and April 4th for various reasons and not found the bodies. April 1st, the next day, these coffee sellers had arrived to place an order. Nobody responded when they knocked. They noticed that, like, a gate was open that probably shouldn't have been, but they were just like, okay, and they left. April 3rd, there was a postman delivering mail and noticed that the mail that he had previously left was still in the same spot, hadn't been picked up, which he thought was odd, but didn't look around.
Yeah.
And then on April 4th, the day that the bodies were discovered, there was a man arrived that must have had, like, a previously scheduled repair for one of the pieces of farm equipment. He got there, nobody was around, he waited like an hour, and then he just decided to go ahead and do the repair. He was there for like 5 hours and had no idea that there were just bodies right nearby.
Ugh, that's kind of horrifying.
Yeah, one of the creepy things was that he said when he finished, he noticed that the barn door was open, which is where the bodies were, but he couldn't say for sure that they had been open when he got there. So it's possible that whoever killed those people were around and were kind of like, it almost seems like they were leaving a clue, like wanting him to find the bodies.
Right.
So, creepy.
That's super creepy.
Yeah, but he had peeked inside the barn even and didn't see anything, and then when he went back to town, he mentioned it to a few folks, including the mayor, about just, it was weird that nobody was there, that he was supposed to, be doing this repair. And so the village guide, which just seems so weird now, but early 20s in Germany, I don't know, I guess village guides were a thing.
Sure.
Lorenz Schlittenbauer. I don't know how to say anything in German.
That's a great name.
It's great. So that dude, the village guide, sent his 2 sons to go check out the house to be like, let's see what's going on.
Right.
They didn't see anybody, just came back and were just like, don't know. Which, like, dude, come on.
Way to, not do your job.
Way to not do your job. And so the guide himself went with a couple other dudes, and that's when they found the bodies of all 6 people in this house. It was Andreas Gruber, 63-year-old man, his wife, Cecilia Gruber, 72, their daughter, Victoria Gabriel, 35, and then her daughter, also named Cecilia, who was 7. They were all murdered in the barn. They were stacked up on top of each other, covered in hay, which is horrible.
That's weird.
And then they continued investigating and found the chambermaid, Maria Baumgartner, who had just started work that day.
Oh.
She had literally been dropped off by a friend hours before.
That's a shitty first day.
Yeah. Or the day of the murder, but still.
Right.
And Victoria's other child, her son Joseph, who was only 2, who was found in his bassinet in the bedroom.
Oof.
Awful. So, of course, they have no real idea what happened the night of the murders because nobody survived.
Right.
It's
not like there's forensics back then.
Yeah, not really. I guess I thought I read that they only took 5 photos at the scene. A couple photos in the barn. There was a photo from outside of the barn, looking at the house. And then I think a couple photos in the house, where the bodies were found. But that was pretty much it. So yeah, there's nothing certain of what exactly happened. But it seems like the parents, their daughter, and then her daughter were kind of lured into the barn. It just seemed just based on what was normal for farm life back then, it just seemed odd that all 4 of them would have been in the barn for some reason when somebody came in.
Right.
So that's also another creepy aspect, that there was potentially somebody luring them one by one out to the barn and killing them.
How did they go about luring them?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. And I'm assuming that there were, for some reason I'm picturing an empty barn, but there must have been animals in this barn. So it's maybe they, one by one heard the animals making weird noises or sounding like they were being disturbed, and so would go in to check it out. But they did an experiment that proved that from in the barn, if you were screaming, you couldn't hear it from most other places in the house. So it seems feasible knowing that somebody could have been killed in the barn and even surprised and screaming.
Right.
And people in the house wouldn't necessarily heard it. So they wouldn't have been oh my God, what's going on in there?
Right.
So it probably wasn't people rushing in to be oh no. So yeah, just I want to know so badly, who was in there? Was it somebody they knew?
Right.
We don't know. So yeah, which explains too why the maid never made it in. Most likely the killer or killers killed those 4 in the barn, and then who knows if they just didn't know that there was a maid and the 2-year-old there, or if they just thought it would be tough to get them out in the barn. I have no idea. So yeah, the Munich Police Department did an exhaustive investigation. They questioned more than 100 different suspects.
Jesus.
The most recent of which was in 1986. So
really?
60 years later. But they have no conclusive results. The saddest part of the evidence showed that the young daughter, Cecilia, the 7-year-old, had been alive for several hours after the murders.
Ew.
They found her with tufts of her hair ripped out of her head.
Did
in
she
her
do
own
that
hands.
to herself?
Yeah.
Ugh,
yeah.
What the fuck?
Which and then is just is that out of fear or pain or what?
What's going on?
What is the deal?
Nothing good.
It seemed like they were all dead from severe head injuries, so who knows what was going on there. But yeah, the police initially thought robbery, but they found a huge sum of money on the property, so they figured, if it was a robbery, that was kind of a bad job.
Yeah, he failed.
So, and another creepy aspect is that the perpetrator or perpetrators, there's evidence that they stayed at the house for several days after they committed the murders.
Oh.
Yeah, the cattle had been fed. The supply of bread from the kitchen, which I guess they must have known when it had been delivered, had been all eaten. And they had, like, been some recently cut meat from the pantry. And the neighbors, the reason they didn't really think anything was up, they saw smoke coming from the chimney all weekend long.
Ugh.
Yeah. So whoever fucking killed them just hung out for days.
Wild.
Like, not like they got there and killed them that night and they were like, well, I'm not going to go all the way back through the woods now. Like, it's late.
Right.
Like, they stayed there for days.
With these bodies slowly decomposing in the barn.
In the freaking barn. Like, yikes. So, yeah, that'll, like, always creep me out, too. That they... Yeah. I don't know. Which, to me, feels like it maybe was somebody that they knew. It seems like it would be an odd thing to just randomly kill somebody and then be like, I'm going to chill here for a while.
And I feel like sort of getting away with this kind of murder back then would have required some level of, like, familiarity with, like, the customs of that particular town or that particular, like, at least, like, rural Germany at that time.
Yeah.
Because, like, for them to have, like, got in there and been familiar enough to, like, feed the cattle and, like, I don't know, it just seems like somebody who had knowledge of their lifestyle and was able to just kind of, like, slip into their lifestyle, and maybe that was what they were trying to do.
Right.
But it seems weird that they just murdered everybody straight out. I wonder if all of those people died at the same time. Like, how did they determine that?
I don't know. I don't know if, forensics was that... I mean, obviously it was advanced at least to the point where they knew, if they found them on the 4th, they knew that they had died on the 31st. Right. Which, I mean, who knows if that was like a rough estimate at the time. Right. I don't know as much as I would like about body decomposition, as weird as that sounds, but I'm assuming that there'd be some level of that. It was winter because, the father had reported seeing tracks in the fresh snow like days before. So, it's definitely winters, maybe not as much as there would have been, but, like, who knows if even that estimate is 100% correct, but, I don't know, it just always creeped me out that they just stayed in the house. That's,
like, the weirdest part of all that. Otherwise, you would just think it's just some random stranger killing, but living in a house of the people that you just murdered with their bodies in the barn next door and feeding their cattle and eating their food.
Taking care of their animals.
Yeah.
So weird. Yeah, so... one of the main suspects was Carl Gabriel, who was the husband of Victoria. So she was the sort of middle-aged, like the 35-year-old woman who had the 2 young kids. He had reportedly been killed during the First World War in December 1914, but his body had never been recovered, and there were some rumors that he had exchanged identities with a fallen comrade. So, kind of unclear. Obviously, people were like, of course he died. And then other people were like, I don't know. Right. Some people said that they had met him or had seen him after he supposedly died. And then, the rumors that he had switched identities. Victoria had not only given birth to the 2-year-old Joseph illegitimately in his absence, but she had that child with her father. There was incest going on. Oh. That people in the village knew about. It was documented in court, which I don't know... Why?
What the fuck?
What was going on there? I don't really know. Huh. But the theory is that Carl killed the family to seek revenge because his wife was doing it with her dad.
I buy that.
Which is really gross. Yeah. So that's one theory. The other main suspect was that Lorenz Schlittenbauer, the village guide.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, who ended up finding them.
That is a classic police tactic. The person who finds the body is always a suspect.
Yeah. And, again, strange that all these other people had kind of gone by. I mean, nobody obviously was looking for dead bodies. Nobody was really looking that hard for them, obviously. Right. But it is odd that he was the first one to finally be like, oh, there they are. Right. Maybe because he knew where they were. Right. I don't know. But, yeah, he had supposedly also carried on a relationship with Victoria.
Wow.
She was...
Fucking Victoria.
Yeah, damn. And it was rumored that he was the one who fathered Joseph because apparently there were initials on Joseph's birth certificate that matched his initials, which seems odd. The locals suspected him because he did some weird things during the recovery, like after finding the bodies, the 2 dudes that he brought kind of went outside like totally shocked. I mean, they just found a pile of bodies, including
Yeah.
a 7-year-old.
Right.
But Lorenz, I'm just assuming that's how it's pronounced.
Sounds right to me.
Lorenz, I don't know.
Classic Lorenz.
Classic Lorenz. Went into the house alone, which they also said that they heard him unlock the door with a key. Maybe that missing key, maybe the key that he got from Victoria if they were carrying on a relationship.
Right.
But that seemed weird that he had a key. But he went into the house saying that he was looking for his son, which is
Oh.
both like that to me at least like implies that there was something going on with him and her, but like
Yeah.
not necessarily. I mean, if he did kill these people, then he also killed the son. But
Right.
maybe he just wanted to make sure the son was found. I don't know. And then he also, apparently it wasn't said what he had done, and I'm assuming maybe he moved the bodies, but he disturbed the bodies at the scene, which kind of messed with the initial investigation, which he said he was doing because he was looking for his son still.
Right.
So maybe if they were stacked up, he was like looking to see, like, is he under there?
Interesting.
Don't know. So yeah, he kind of messed with some evidence, which seems like an odd thing for an innocent person who would be, looking for the killer to do. Like, why would you screw with the one chance we have of finding the killer?
Right.
So, but, maybe if that was his son, and if he was actually innocent, he was just distraught, knowing that his son was there. I don't know.
He's definitely, like, involved in some way.
Yeah.
That's
I think-
definitely not, like, the behavior of somebody who's just, like, not carrying, at the very least, carrying on with Victoria.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There was definitely something going on. And then there were other suspects, of course. Like I said, they questioned 100 people or more. So there were other people, but they just weren't really quite as strong. But there were just a lot of weird reports, like these just little snippets of information and rumor that surrounded this case that kind of made it hard for anything to get pinpointed. Like there were just all these different shady people that had been reported like around the area of the farmstead. Like there was somebody that said that they saw 2 strange men kind of on the tree line, right by the woods when they were there. Like, I don't know if they were there dropping something off or delivering something, a few days before the murders, and like said they saw these 2 weird dudes that once the dudes were spotted, like turned their backs towards the farmstead so you couldn't see their faces. Like just weird shit like that. 5 years later in 1927, there was a stranger that stopped a resident of this nearby town of Wadehofen, at midnight. He asked this resident questions about the murder, and then he shouted that he was the murderer and then ran into the woods. Like, what the hell?
That's weird.
What the hell is that? The maid who had arrived, like I said, just mere hours before the murders, but there was never any investigation into, like, maybe the crime being connected to her in some way. Not that she did it, but just maybe it was something to do with her presence. But again, there was some weird shit happening before then, so who knows? And then ultimately there was no motive that they could figure out for these killings, but the brutality of the killings and the placement of the bodies, the fact that the person stuck around, like, implied some kind of relationship with the victims, so it was just kind of odd, like, who did this?
Right.
Nobody knows. So, yeah, the farmstead was completely demolished less than a year after the murders. It is now an agricultural area, although there is a little memorial right on the site that has the names of the victims and some other info that I couldn't read because it was in German. And the dead are buried in that nearby Wadehofen, town of Wadehofen cemetery, but they do not have their skulls. Their skulls were kept in a justice building in the town of Augsburg and were likely destroyed in a bomb attack during World War II. So,
fucking Nazis.
just another weird, fucking Nazis, man. But another weird aspect of this is just that they are buried headless.
Weird.
Yeah.
Okay, here's my theory. Listening to what you just laid out.
Yeah.
So,
Hit me.
to put all that evidence together,
Yes.
I think it was the husband who supposedly died in World War I, did that whole identity swap, and came back to, like, check on his wife, and maybe heard that she was, like, carrying on with her dad, or that town guide guy heard that his wife was, like, had moved on or whatever, was pissed, and so he started to kind of, like, stalk the family, which is why there was that weird newspaper from Munich. Maybe his sort of, like, base of operations was in Munich, and he was just coming to check out the farm to see what was going on. Accidentally left the newspaper. And then he just kind of like stalked them and watched, and maybe he saw Victoria and her dad, or Victoria and that other guy, and that just like sent him into a rage. And he grabbed a Maddox and killed the family.
Yep.
One by one, maybe lured them out into the barn, or I don't know how the actual murder took place. That's a whole nother question.
Right.
But then he decided to live there because it was familiar to him.
Yeah.
And he had nowhere else to go. And so he just kind of stayed there until he got his act together. Maybe witnessed that guy come to go fix the farm machinery. Like witnessed that, opened the doors to like have everybody like be found or whatever, so that the bodies wouldn't be too decomposed or whatever out of respect.
Yeah. Right.
And then like took off at some point there and was never seen again.
Yeah.
That seems like the most likely to me. He has motive, opportunity, if he's alive. If he was alive after World War I.
Yeah. He
has motive, opportunity, and it very well fits somebody who knows the homestead, would have cared for the cattle, and like definitely had a reason to have like a lot of rage. Well, yeah. I mean, I'm not trying to say that he had like a good reason to murder 7 people.
Right, yeah.
But
you're like, I feel you, dude.
I would have done the same thing.
I would have done the same thing.
But he definitely had like a strong motive to do so.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it does seem like somebody would have to have some emotional connection, because I could kind of see staying in the house, like eating the food, if it was just a matter of convenience or just sort of cold-heartedness, like, oh, I killed these people, I'm just gonna take their shit now. But feeding the animals seems like a personal thing. Like, that seems like something you wouldn't bother with. I mean, if you just killed a bunch of humans,
right?
I mean, animals are better than humans, but
correct.
It seems odd that you would be like, oh, I gotta make sure I feed the cattle while I'm here. Like, that just seems weird to me. And, and one of the things, too, that I forgot to mention was that, there had been, so yeah, like I said, they had heard like these weird footsteps in the weeks leading up to the murders, and the dad had investigated, and I guess when they were searching after they found the bodies, they were kind of looking to see if there was anything suspicious, and they found this odd spot in the barn. It like must have been higher up in one of the, I don't know what you call it, like where they store the hay, kind of up in the upper part of the barn. And there was a weird spot that looked like some of the hay had been cleared out, like somebody had been able to like get up there and be up there. But supposedly it was theorized that that was like one of the places that the dad and like the daughter went to like do their weird incest business.
Yeah.
So it was theorized that that was why the dad hadn't like noticed that as a weird spot, because he knew about it, because he's the one who set it up. So I almost wonder if, like what if the husband was there lurking around, watching things, and then what if he like spotted them in the barn doing whatever gross shit they were doing.
Right.
And maybe that was kind of his, threw him into a rage.
Yeah. Interesting.
Because they were all found in the barn. They were killed in the barn.
Right, and so that was like sort of like the center focus of his rage.
Yeah.
So he like, maybe they like went out to the barn and he killed both of them. And then like someone heard one of those noises and went out to the barn, and then he just kept killing.
Well, I would think even if they couldn't hear people screaming necessarily, like maybe, I mean, you'd think that they must have been able to hear the animals. You think they'd want to hear if the animals were like upset,
right?
Like making
foxes
noises
or whatever.
Yeah. So who knows? But yeah, it seems like it would make sense.
Just like, like so and so went down to the barn like 20 minutes ago. Where are they?
Yeah, exactly. Like if they kind of disappeared to go do something in the barn, and then maybe maybe the mom came out after, because they don't know in which order people were killed.
Right.
So it easily could have been the dad and the daughter, and then the mom's like, oh, where have they been?
Right.
Comes out there, and then the daughter is like, what the heck? Like, where's everybody? Goes out there, killed. Who knows why she wasn't killed immediately.
Right.
But the mattock, it said, was from the farm. So it wasn't like somebody brought it.
So it fits that somebody...
Yeah.
Like, it makes the most sense that it was someone involved with Victoria, because she seems to be the one who has the most going on that would be, like, causing people, like, to be upset. You know what I mean? Like, whether you're her lover and she's, like, carrying on with other people, or you're just a moral person, and why is she carrying on with her father?
Why is she doing that? I mean, yeah, I'm upset with her, too.
Right.
Because what the heck were you doing? I don't really know how common incest was in 1920s, like, rural Germany. Maybe it was more common than I would like to know. I don't really want to know. No. Now that I think about it. I'm all set. But yeah. Yep, so that's the Hinterkaifeck murders.
Interesting.
Really messed up. And I'm, like, I don't think for me, like, I wouldn't want to visit the site of a murder necessarily.
Right.
I'm cool going to places that are haunted, that have weird connections to other things, but for me, Like, I know people want to go and stay, like, in a hotel room. They want to stay in the room where somebody was murdered. Like, that's
Right.
not my thing.
No.
That just feels like bad juju to go hang out there, especially like this. Like, a whole family's murdered brutally.
Right.
I don't want to go chill in that area. But, I mean, if I ever found myself in Munich, I might take a look at that memorial spot.
You could go check out the memorial because it's almost like respecting the victims.
Exactly. Like, I would be interested to, like, see the barn, I think, if it still existed, but I would not want to go inside.
No.
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 I'm all set with that. Mom and I went to the Holocaust Museum in D.C.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And they have a train car that supposedly was one of the train cars. That was messed up.
That's some seriously fucked up energy.
Yeah, you walk through that and it is, like, the creepiest thing I've ever felt.
Yeah.
Because I wonder with some of those things, if you didn't know what the context was, would you feel it walking through? I mean, is part of it that like, wow, a bunch of people were brought to their death in this cart? Or, I don't know. But it had enough energy that I was like, you'd have to feel this.
Oh, yeah.
Regardless. So I imagine it would be like that. You'd go into that barn and just be like, oof.
Yes isn't right.
Not right at all. So, yeah.
Interesting.
One of my favorite unsolved murders.
That's a cool one.
Yeah.
I had heard about it, but I didn't know any of those details.
Yeah. It's kind of cool that it's in Germany.
Yeah.
It's not there's enough murders in the United States.
Yes.
We can do those forever.
Right.
So once in a while we can delve into some international murders.
International murder.
So, but you're going to bring us back to the United States with yours.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, you ready?
So oh yeah.
All right. So, my mysterious death is the death of Elisa Lam.
Yes.
So, Elisa Lam was a 22-year-old college student from Vancouver, Canada. Mm-hmm. She was visiting Los Angeles, California, back in 2013 by herself.
Wow.
She took the train, like the Amtrak, from Vancouver. She was basically just like sightseeing. Came down to LA. She was staying there for a while. She like went to like the San Diego Zoo. She was posting on social media. She had a Tumblr. Just
Who doesn't have a Tumblr?
Right. Well, me not anymore, but 2013 I did.
2013 everyone did.
Everyone did. So, yeah. She went to LA with it by herself, and she stayed at a hotel called the Hotel Cecil in downtown LA, which is a relatively famous hotel in LA for some very strange reasons. So let me talk about the hotel first, okay?
Yep.
So, Hotel Cecil was built in the 1920s. It was not working class, but it was more of like a less expensive hotel for a while, and has more recently tried to reestablish its image into more of like a boutique hotel. But back in the day, it was relatively inexpensive. So it has a famous history of like really dark shit happening there.
Interesting.
So the Black Dahlia murder.
Oh shit.
Elizabeth Short, very famous murder that occurred in LA.
That'll be a future episode.
That will definitely be a future episode. If you don't know, look it up.
Yep.
She stopped at the Hotel Cecil. That was one of the last stops she made before she was murdered.
Oh, wow.
One of the last places she was seen was the Hotel Cecil in downtown LA.
Damn.
Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, while he was actively stalking and murdering people, stayed at the Hotel Cecil for a week or so.
Whoa.
Another serial killer, Jack Unterweger, who is from Austria. So that's a little Germany-ish connection.
Yeah.
He was like an international serial killer. He was convicted of a few murders, released, became like a weird like celebrity kind of person and like a journalist.
Okay.
And traveled to LA to like write about how the United States is different than Germany with their perspective on serial killers and stuff.
What?
But while he was doing this, he was murdering prostitutes.
Whoa.
So he murdered people in like three different countries at least.
Wow.
He stayed at the Hotel Cecil in LA.
Nice.
So other than those famous people, there was also this woman who was known as the Pigeon Lady of Pershing Square.
Okay.
Lived at the hotel, and she was raped and murdered there.
Wow.
And then there's a whole bunch of suicides at this hotel, too many to name. So, I mean, it's not uncommon for hotels to have a large number of murders and suicides, but I feel like the Hotel Cecil has a higher caliber of murders and like a higher number of suicides than the average hotel.
Yeah.
Like, it's got some dark energy. If Richard Ramirez is staying in your hotel, like, there's something wrong.
This is a bad place to be.
He's a dark human being. So that's sort of the setting for this whole mystery. Okay? So Elisa Lam travels. She goes to stay at the Hotel Cecil, which is supposed to be this kind of boutique hotel that's, like, renovated its image and everything. So she checks in. She's initially assigned to a group room. She has roommates, kind of like a hostel.
Interesting.
But her roommates complained about, quote, odd behavior. And she was moved to a solo room after only 2 days with staying with these people.
Wow.
There's no sort of details about what that odd behavior was, but she was just odd and made them uncomfortable. So she was transferred. So, does her thing, totally normal, posting on social media and everything. Then, January 31st of 2013, she's supposed to check out. And she didn't call her parents to check in, like, hey, I'm on my way home, I checked out of the hotel. So they report her missing. They end up coming down to LA to, like, look for her, because they're like, this isn't like her. She wouldn't just leave. She would, like, we had, like, a schedule of when she was going to check in and everything. So they report her missing, and the police come and they search the hotel with dogs and everything. Like, it's a big deal. They don't have probable cause to search any of the rooms because she's not technically dead. She hasn't been missing for long enough for them to have probable cause. So they just kind of bring the dogs around, like, common areas and stuff. Yeah. They don't turn up anything. They don't see anything about her. They even, like, did, like, a whole, like, campaign of posting, like, flyers about, like, with her face on it around the neighborhood trying to look for her. The neighborhood, by the way, that this hotel is in is Skid Row in Los Angeles. Okay. Which, put a pin in that, because that's going to become relevant when we talk about some theories. Okay. So it's right in the middle of Skid Row, which is a really bad part of LA with lots of homeless people, which is unfortunate. That's not why it's bad, but... Right. So that's just kind of like another weird, like, setting. Yeah. That's going to become more significant later. So January 31st is when she's supposed to check out, and she's noticed that she's missing. February 19th, her body is discovered. So,
like almost 3 weeks later.
Almost 3 weeks later.
Damn.
So her body was discovered because a bunch of the people in the Cecil Hotel noticed that when they turned the water on and water was coming out of their faucet, it was black and discolored and smelled really bad. No. Yes.
I don't like where this is going at all.
Nope. So the police go and they check there's 4 big water tanks on the top of the Hotel Cecil. No. And they found her body floating in that water tank. No. So for almost 3 weeks, people were drinking water with this decomposing woman's body in it.
My God.
Yes.
Oh my God.
That is the most disturbing, I think, aspect of this whole story outside of the mystery is that for 3 weeks, think about all the people who drank, like, human tea.
That's awful. Human tea. Yeah, just baking on the roof.
Taking a shower.
Oh my God. Like, wow. Yes. I'm speechless.
I can't imagine that there's not, like, some sort of filtration system.
Oh my God.
But, like, even if you're filtering out, like, the particle, it's just, like, the thought that... that fucked me up when I heard about it.
Yeah. Hotel water is already so shady.
Yes.
We just were in Las Vegas, and the water, you didn't really want to drink the hotel water from, like, the bathroom sink because it kind of smelled like sulfur. Oh, yeah. Which I guess is something to do with the filtration process or whatever. But I was still just like, you would turn on the water, like, usually just the first time of the day, and you'd kind of just get, like, a quick whiff, and you're kind of like, what's that? Yeah. And then it would go away. You'd, like, get used to it really quick, and you're like, what?
Right. Is this normal?
I'm not drinking this shit. After I heard about how, like, one of the dirtiest things in a hotel room is that, the reusable cup that they give you, like the glass cup. Oh, yeah. That's in the bathroom. Like, it's supposed to be one of the dirtiest things because they, like, I guess it's one of the things that they're supposedly not great about cleaning. Great. Every time they turn over the room.
Never using that again.
Yeah, it was talking about how nasty it is. So I'm like, nope, I'm good. So, yeah, but that's a lot better than human tea.
Yep. I'm decomposing human.
Me being, like, as germophobic as I am, the thought that I would stay somewhere and then find out, like, oh, yeah, there was a dead body in the water for weeks. Right. And you drank it. I could never get clean again.
Oh, God, no.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. So, so her body was found.
So she's floating.
In this water tank 3 weeks later. Awful. So she was fully naked, but her clothes were in the water tank with her. Okay. And the water tank had... I'll get into the placement of the water tank later.
So she got in there and took her own clothes off. Or somebody else took her clothes off.
All we know is that she was naked and her clothes were also in there with her. Weird. But she was not wearing them. Okay. And her clothes were covered in a sandy particulate that was never definitively identified. So that was February 19th. So I'm going to bring it back now. So basically the only facts that we knew about were that she was missing... starting on the 31st, and she was found on the 19th.
Yeah.
So this is the thing that sort of like bridges the gap between those two dates is one single surveillance video that they were able to recover from the hotel. Mm-hmm. It's from February 1st, so the day after she was reported missing. Okay, which is a super weird kind of thing. Yeah. Why didn't she check out of the hotel? Why was she still in? This is from the Cecil Hotel. Weird. Specifically, one camera in the Cecil Hotel at this one elevator. So if you're near a computer, even if you're not near a computer, go get near a computer and search Elisa Lam on YouTube, and you will find it's like a 4-minute video, and it's a super creepy and disturbing video of Elisa Lam, the last time you will ever see her alive.
I think I've seen this video, and we will also, I say this every week, that we're going to get the show notes going.
Yes.
We're going to get those show notes going.
Oh, yeah.
And if we get them going this week, like I'm promising you that I will put a link to this video in the show notes.
Because it's absolutely critical to this, the mystery of the story. Because you watch for yourself, and you'll be able to kind of, different people pull different things away from it, and it helps you formulate what you think happened.
Yeah, it's a bizarre video because I knew a little bit about this case because I think I saw it on BuzzFeed Unsolved, must have been. And they didn't show the whole video, but they showed parts of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just creepy to see. Okay. So describe the video a little bit.
Okay. So it starts, the elevator door opens. So the whole video is from the perspective of like a camera up in the corner of the elevator. Mm-hmm. So the elevator door opens and Elisa Lam comes in. She's just wearing these like black basketball shorts, like a tank top and like some flip-flops. Just super casual, chilling. She's kind of like, all of her movements are kind of like theatrical, as in like she's very like over exaggerated with her arms while she's doing things. So she comes in and she kind of like sweeps her arm around and she bends down all animated to look at the control panel, like where the buttons are. Mm-hmm. And she's bending down looking at them all close, and she pushes all the buttons for all the different floors. Okay. And then she kind of leans up against the wall and is like waiting for the door to close. And it's weird because the door starts to close and then it stops. And it stays open. And it stays open for the next like 3 minutes of the video. It just stays like open. And you can see her, she kind of like bends down and like looks out the window or out the elevator door. And then she kind of like looks around the corner of the elevator down the hallway. And then she kind of like jumps out, almost like somebody's playing with her. And she kind of like stands there, like puts her hands on her head almost like she's confused. And she just kind of mills around. And then, like, she's gone for a little bit, but the elevator door is still open, and it's still open for 3 minutes.
Weird.
And then all of a sudden, like, you don't see her for, like, a few minutes of the video, and then all of a sudden the door just closes by itself.
What? And there's nobody else in the elevator?
No, there's nobody else in the video at all, just her. So it closes by itself, and then it opens again, and then it closes by itself.
What the heck?
Super weird, which could be explained by, like, her pressing all the buttons, I guess. Could have, like, shorted out the elevator. But it just seems weird that for the exact duration of this video, the door stays open the whole time.
Yeah.
And it's debatable what she's doing, because, like, her body language almost seems like she's playful. Mm-hmm. Like she's, like, playing with something or interacting with something that's not scary. But then other parts of her body language is almost like she's hiding. And she's, like trying to like not be seen by somebody. Like she kind of like ducks herself into the corner of the elevator, like where the control panel is, and like gets up into the corner like she's hiding. But it's almost like she's playfully hiding.
Right.
And there's no one. She's not interacting with anybody. No. It's almost like, and what's weird about the video too is that there's, for one thing, the time code is blurred and nobody knows why.
Weird.
And there's a minute of footage missing.
What?
Which one theory is that there could have been some random person who walked by who had nothing to do with the case, and they didn't want to like include that person in the video and like forever link them to Elisa Lam.
Right.
I can kind of see that, but I also feel like they would keep that in and just blur the face.
Yeah.
Because it seems weird to just edit out a minute of footage. And then parts of the footage are also slowed down, like significantly slowed down.
What the heck?
And there's even parts where it looks almost like her mouth is being pixelated, like she's like talking or swearing like in a video, but like it's like blurred out.
Yeah. So
it's just a super weird piece of evidence, and it's the only like very visible piece of evidence that you can see is that video. And that people assume that's the night she died.
Right.
Because based on the decomposition of her body and everything, that seems like that was around the night that she died, was February 1st.
And weird because you said that she was kind of peeking out, like looking down the hall almost, and you'll never know
what was she looking at?
Was she looking at, was there somebody? Was there nobody? We would never know who was there.
Right. Which it seems weird that there's no other, like, cameras in the whole hotel that caught her.
Yeah, you'd think that there'd be cameras in the hallway, right? I just assume that there are.
Right.
I don't know.
I mean, maybe because it's like an old kind of rundown hotel.
Yeah.
But like they were saying, like it's been renovated and it was trying to be like a boutique hotel. So I feel like cameras would be something that would be very important.
Right.
Especially somewhere like Skid Row where people could just wander in and you'd want like, you know, eyes on the different floors.
Yeah, you'd think security would be important.
Yeah.
Weird. Okay, so that's, most likely the night she died.
Yeah. So that's the only like, that's like the last sort of like fact of her being alive. So then she's discovered on the 19th in the water tower. She died, the cause of death was drowning. She was coated in that weird sandy particulate.
Weird.
And they did a toxicology screen and she had some prescription drugs in her system. But she was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and depression.
Okay.
And the prescription drugs that were found in her system were treatments for bipolar disorder and depression, which the police just said, oh, suicide. She was depressed. Period. End the sentence.
Yeah,
done.
Great.
Which people also point to like, oh, she was having like a psychotic episode. But you don't have psychotic episodes when you have bipolar disorder or you're depressed. It's not like she was diagnosed with like schizophrenia or something that has psychotic breaks from reality. Like she had something that a lot of people walk around with and are super normal and don't have like psychotic breaks from reality.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the facts. The really interesting stuff was when you start to get into the sort of theories about what happened. Okay. So the official police story is that she had bipolar and depression, committed suicide, done. They point to, her diagnosis of bipolar disorder and depression, and actually they point to her Tumblr.
Oh, no.
Because there's a quote on her Tumblr from Chuck Palahniuk, one of our favorite authors.
One of our favorites.
It's, you're always haunted by the idea that you're wasting your life, was kind of like her little tag at the end of it.
And that's,
And so like, bipolar and depression.
Have they ever been on Tumblr? Like, do they know how many thousands of Tumblrs have quotes like that? Tumblr. Like, holy shit.
Right. And she was like it was like the content of her Tumblr was just kind of like vaguely artsy photos and stuff. Like she seemed like she kind of wanted to be a photographer or something. So it was just like classic Tumblr shit. Like to cite that as like
every single Tumblr.
Someone's depressed.
If a Tumblr isn't porn, it's that.
Right.
Basically. Or it's, some weirdly specific, like, oh, I want to have sex with Pennywise.
Right.
It's something bizarre, but it basically splits between porn and emo girls mostly.
Right.
Yeah.
And like for the record, her parents say she had no history of suicidal ideation, any kind of suicide attempts, nothing like that.
Yeah.
So it's very out of her character if she did commit suicide. So another theory that people have is that she was on some kind of recreational party drug. She's a single 22-year-old college student by herself in LA. It's possible she could have taken, people point to ecstasy because of like her sort of exaggerated everything that she was doing. And the fact that she was found drowned, when you're on ecstasy, apparently you get really thirsty. And so like I could see in a stretch you wanting to like go take a drink of water.
Sure.
But that leads me to, okay, let's talk about the water towers.
Yeah.
So if you are, again, next to your computer after you just watch that video, Google the water towers of the Cecil Hotel. Because it's basically a concrete block platform that's about 2 feet high. And then on top of that 2-foot high platform are 8-foot water towers. 4 of them in like a square. They're 8 feet high with no fixed way to get up on top of them. Okay. Just smooth metal sides. Yeah. There's no possible way that she could have got up there by herself. Bizarre. And once you get up there, the hatches, you have to lift up this heavy hatch that opens fully all the way and lays back on the top of the water tower. Oh wow. So when she was found, the hatch was closed. What? So this is how she would have had to do it, okay? So she would have had to get up onto the roof, which is possible by the fire escape. Okay. So she would have had to get up onto the roof, climb up a sheer 8-foot metal wall. Yeah. Open this heavy hatch, which she was like a petite woman, so it would have been difficult to just do that. She would have then had to strip naked, throw her clothes into the hatch, like into the water tank, climb in halfway, and then close the hatch behind her.
Weird. So, for some context, is the door of, like, the top of the water tower, is it smaller than the circumference of the whole thing, or is it like the entire circumference is the lid?
It's smaller. It's like a small, I don't know the exact dimensions of it, but it's probably like 2 foot by 2 foot.
Okay.
It was small enough that when they had to extract her body, they had to cut a hole in the side of it because they couldn't fit her body out of it because it had swollen up.
Oh, God.
So it was relatively small, but
Yeah.
just the angle of it and the way that you wouldn't have, like, it's not like there was like a ladder inside there that you could like put your feet on, like, for leverage to pull the door shut. She would have been, her legs would have been dangling in this water tower, and she would have had to muscle this thing over.
Weird.
It just, like, seems very unlikely of a way that anybody would have done it. And, like, even if she was on some kind of weird recreational drugs,
Right.
it just seems very, like, an odd, very difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
That you wouldn't want to do if you're all fucked up on drugs and you're just trying to, like, do something for fun.
Yeah, something
You know what I mean?
spontaneous.
Something spontaneous.
Even
It's
getting up to the
exact
roof.
opposite of spontaneous.
It seems like it'd be easy enough if there was some kind of, like, oops, I went up too many flights of stairs and, like, now here's the door to the roof. Like, oh, I'll check it out. But, like, if you have to climb up the fire escape to get there, that's a pretty intentional.
She couldn't have gone up through the regular, like staircase because you have to have a swipe key card. Like, employees have a swipe key card.
Yeah.
And they had a ladder that they had to put up, like a non-permanent ladder that they had to use to go up and test the water. So, very unlikely that she did it to herself.
Right. Yeah, it's nothing you would stumble upon. Like, she was going to the roof on purpose or was brought, whatever. But that was not like, oh, I'm just wandering around the hotel.
It's also super
bored.
weird if she was murdered. And
Right.
because that's like another theory, that somebody murdered her and dumped her body in there. But for them to have done that, they would have had to take her either dead or unconscious body. She died by drowning, so it's possible that she could have been drowned in like a bathtub or something.
Yeah.
And dumped in the water tower. That's possible.
Right.
But they would have had to drag her either unconscious or dead body up the fire escape, up a sheer 8-foot
Yeah.
water tower, open that thing, throw her naked body and her clothes in the water tower, which I feel like you'd dispose the clothes away from where you disposed of the body.
Right.
And then close the hatch, take the ladder down, and then go about it. It just seems highly unlikely.
It's amazing that the idea of murder in this case almost seems more unlikely
Right.
than her doing it herself in some weird, just it seems like so much effort
So much effort.
to bring a body up there of all places.
Right. Of all places you could dump it. When you're right next to Skid Row and you could potentially just, I don't know, like throw her out the window. I don't know. Like, I feel like if you were going to murder her, that hiding it there would be like the worst place to do it.
Yeah. Bizarre.
So those are like the sort of like regular theories about how what happened with Elisa Lam. So one of my favorite theories, and one of the ones that kind of like gave me the chills. So this is one of the wildest coincidences I've ever encountered while researching a paranormal or mysterious topic. So since the hotel is in the Skid Row, large homeless population, a disease that affects a lot of homeless people is tuberculosis. So the industry standard test for tuberculosis, the like sort of like clinical name for the test, it's Lam-Elisa.
What?
Lam-Elisa. Lam.Elisa.
What?
You can look that up. It is a real
It's a real thing. Oh my God, he's showing me right now.
clinical.
I'm zooming in.
Yeah. It's literally just
What the heck?
Lam-Elisa.
That's bizarre.
It's super bizarre. Like, at the very least, it's spelled exactly like her name.
Yeah.
It's a huge coincidence. Like, wild coincidence. And that is like a documented fact. Her name is Elisa Lam, and this tuberculosis test that existed before this murder, or this mysterious death, is Lam.Elisa. So just in and of itself, that's a wild coincidence.
It's a
Like,
wild
What are the
coincidence.
odds of that?
Right.
So the theory of that comes into that the government or some shady sort of like pharmaceutical company was trying to like gave a large homeless population in LA tuberculosis so that they could either perfect this test or the test was somehow involved in this weird like the government giving people tuberculosis, and they manufactured the Elisa Lam disappearance and these mysterious circumstances, like maybe took a college student and gave her some sort of like LSD or something and then killed her and dumped her body in this thing as a way of, if you go onto Google and you Google Elisa Lam or Lam-Elisa, you're just going to get tons of results that talk about the mysterious disappearance of Elisa Lam.
Yeah.
And I trying to find information about whether or not the tuberculosis test is really called Lam-Elisa was difficult because every time you search, even if you just search Lam-Elisa in quotation marks on Google, to give the exact results, you have to go 2 or 3 pages back until you even find any information that's not about the mysterious disappearance of Elisa Lam.
Weird.
So it's the theory is that they did that on purpose so that they could kind of bury this experiment, and that if you tried to search it, you wouldn't find the information. It would be so difficult to find it that you wouldn't go into it.
So it just sucks for her for having that name.
Right. Or they made up that name.
Right.
And they created that name as a way of deflecting it and created a whole identity for her, and that wasn't her name.
Jesus.
They hired people to be her parents or whatever.
That's
and made this whole
intense.
It's very intense. I guess it's possible. I wouldn't say it's probable, but it's a fucking wild coincidence that her name is that test.
Yeah, that's too weird.
I tried finding information about why the test has that name, and the best of that I can find is that it's a acronym, some weird medical jargon.
That's just such a weird coincidence though.
Right.
The exact name. It's not just one part of her name.
Right.
Her full name.
And there's also a theory that she was given a tuberculosis test, this Lam-Elisa test, because some of the symptoms are sort of odd behavior and disorientation. So that could possibly be it.
Sure.
But ultimately, I was trying to think of where do I come down on this? What do I really think happened given all the evidence? Another whole theory that I should probably get into is just the whole paranormal aspect of it.
Yeah.
The idea that okay, Richard Ramirez, this other serial killer, the Black Dahlia, this hotel is surrounded by death, and it's a very death-centric place. And either these dark forces are attracted to this hotel because it's already dark, or the number of dark occurrences that have happened at this hotel have sort of lingered and created this bad presence there. And so what Elisa Lam was interacting with in that hotel was some sort of entity that we can't see from the video camera, but that was interacting with her, and that she was having a conversation with, and maybe was trying to flee or trying to get away from, or maybe just being playful with. Yeah. There's a whole thing in, I think it's Chinese culture, where it's called the elevator game. You are supposed to do this set of, you push all the buttons to get on an elevator, and when the door the door closes and then opens on the next floor, if anything looks off, then you're not supposed to get out of the elevator, because if you get off the elevator, then you get into a parallel dimension. Whoa. And you disappear from our dimension. You go into this other parallel dimension.
Jesus.
So people think she was playing the elevator game and she got involved and she lost.
Damn.
Or won. Or
she did. Yeah, she did end up in a different dimension. One where she's dead.
But then she came back to our dimension.
Right.
And ended up in that water tower.
What the heck?
And none of it really answers it. No. Fully.
Yeah, it's one of the few cases where you're just none of these are plausible. Right. Really?
The weird little detail about her body being found was the sandy particulate on her clothes. It was never fully identified. Some people have said they're up above the water towers. There's a little part of the roof that sticks up higher, and so people think maybe she climbed up onto that first and full body rubbed on the ground as she was getting up, and that's the sandy particulate. Okay. But that still is predicated on the idea that she climbed in there by herself and closed the door behind her. Yeah. Which just does not seem likely to me.
No, it doesn't at all.
Everything that we know about her, just chalking it up to mental illness doesn't feel right.
No. And it's so hard because I think mental illness is used so often in cases like this, particularly when it's one person who goes missing and turns up dead. It's and on one hand, I'm you can't just blame every single weird occurrence on mentally ill, she, was on medication, oh no. Right. But at the same time, watching shows like Forensic Files or Unsolved Mysteries in particular, every other episode of Unsolved Mysteries is somebody disappeared and then, either is just gone or they were found dead. And every single set of parents that's told oh, well, your kid committed suicide is oh, they never would have done that. And it's I wonder honestly how many parents would be told that their child committed suicide and would be oh, I knew it. You know, like, I feel like everybody's like, no, like, they wouldn't have done that. I mean, we
Right.
see that all the time with celebrities,
Yep.
with Robin Williams, with, I mean, basically every big celebrity that has committed suicide. There's, you know, of course there's a couple people that really knew them,
Right.
like, knew them and knew their struggles, but everybody else is like, I would never have thought.
Right.
And it's not that unusual to think that a child, especially in her early 20s, college kid, wouldn't necessarily share with her parents. I mean, we don't know how close they were.
Right.
Would she have told her
They
parents
seemed
that she
close
wanted
enough
to?
that they knew immediately
That's true.
that she was missing.
They had a plan for her to check in. That is a pretty big thing.
Right.
So, who knows? But it also, like, if you just looked at it like, oh, they found her in her room dead, and the idea was suicide, like, I could maybe a little more lean towards that, because it's like,
Right.
nobody knows, really. But the bizarre circumstances
Right.
are, like,
If she
really-
were to have wanted to commit suicide and she was up on the roof, the easiest way to commit suicide would have been jumping.
Yeah.
There's like a million better, faster, easier ways to have committed suicide unless she was particularly fixated on that particular way of dying.
Yeah.
Which reminds me about something that is also another weird coincidence.
Yes.
So this all occurred in 2013. In 2005, a movie came out called Dark Water.
Okay.
And in the movie, there's like a mother and like her son or whatever who live in this apartment building, and they turn on the water tap, and it's this dark, discolored water coming out.
Whoa.
Go up on the roof, open the water tank. They find the floating body of a dead girl who had died a few weeks before.
What?
This came out in 2005.
Okay.
So it's weird. It's either some weird premonition, collective consciousness kind of thing, or I guess it is possible that she had seen this movie and thought about how that was a way that she would like to die.
Right.
And became fixated on that, and for whatever reason decided to kill herself that way. And, like, I guess I could stretch and see that, because it's just as likely as all the other things
Yeah.
going on. But it still just seems like a weird coincidence, kind of like the Elisa Lam, Elisa thing.
Yeah.
But it's just another, like, weird detail that just casts, like, more questions than answers. Like,
Yeah. She related to the wrong part of that movie.
Right.
She's like, you know what? I want to be when I grow up. That woman in the water.
dark, enclosed
Yeah.
space.
That dead woman. Yeah, I don't know. It just seems like a lot of effort.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, if I have to believe that she was alone at all, I don't believe that it was suicide.
Right.
I believe, if nothing else, I would think that she'd have to be under the influence of something
Right.
to, not just to go up to the roof. I could see that would be like, woo.
Right.
I mean, a little bit odd being by herself. She
Right.
wasn't, I mean, we don't know for sure, I guess, but it seems like she was on a solo trip. She was doing her own thing.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I'm not sure if I would go to LA by myself for a trip.
Right.
Like to a hotel in Skid Row.
Right.
So
That
I'm
Richard
already
Ramirez stayed at?
very different right now, but I think if I was alone, I wouldn't be like, I'm going to go up to the fucking roof
No.
and like see what's up there.
And, like,
But-
if it was that night that she was in the elevator, she was fully by herself at that time.
Yeah. And that's the most bizarre thing to me, I think, because like you said, she was supposed to have checked out that morning. If it's like any other hotel, like, you know, late morning, she should have been gone.
Right.
And then that video being in the evening is just so bizarre that it's not like she left the hotel and went somewhere else. You know, her body wasn't found in another part of the city.
Right.
She was at that hotel the whole time. So her parents are worried. They must have been trying to communicate with her. I mean, she must have had a cell phone.
Right.
They,
Her cell
you know-
phone, she had lost her cell phone,
Okay.
supposedly, while she was sightseeing. But then there's also this weird question, like, somebody thought that, like, she had been given another cell phone, like, as a replacement, or she had got, like, a burner phone or something, and that was also missing.
Weird. Yeah, so you got to think, I mean, okay, so even if let's say her cell phone was gone and she didn't have a burner phone,
Right.
she's still, if she's in her right state of mind, which who knows if she was,
Right.
whether it was the theorized mental break, which I also don't agree with, but
Right.
if that was the case, or if she was under the influence of something, then you'd think if she was in her right state of mind, she would have been aware that her parents would be looking for her,
Right.
that she was supposed to leave that day.
And
and-
this elevator video took place at night on the February 1st.
Yeah.
The day after she was supposed to communicate to her parents. And the day after she was supposed to leave.
Yeah.
So if
she's
she'd been
just
in the right state
there
of
the whole
mind.
time.
Right.
Yeah. So something was wrong.
None of the facts fit together.
No.
It just doesn't form a cohesive storyline to me.
Man. These stories just get me because it's just, yeah, it's one of those things like we're never going to know.
Never ever.
It's both fascinating and infuriating.
Yes.
Like watching, again, Unsolved Mysteries,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm sure all of you know about, but if you don't, it's on Amazon Prime.
Mm-hmm.
I was very excited to see it. I've probably now watched all the episodes, like, well, at least the first few seasons. several more times now. There's some fascinating shit in there.
Yeah.
They mix it up. They've got some that's like, somebody left a whole bunch of money to some people when he died and they've never claimed their money. So, like, is it you? And it's like, I don't want to know about mysteries like that.
Right.
I want to know that somebody disappeared.
Right.
And was never found again, or like turned up in a different city and didn't know who they were. Like, that's what I want to know about. But there's so many cases like that are just like, you're never going to know.
Right.
Nobody's ever, because she's dead.
Yeah.
She's the only person who could tell us.
Right.
What the fuck happened.
Or the government.
Or the government. Yeah, and they're not going to fucking tell us. So nobody's ever going to know. So all there are theories.
Or Hinterkaifeck.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody's ever going to know who killed those people.
Right. And whoever killed those people got away with it.
Exactly. Yeah, they're totally innocent. Even if they were suspected, nobody was ever convicted.
Right. Just walking around.
This is why my husband, Nate, is not intrigued by these stories. I don't understand it. He'll watch Unsolved Mysteries with me, I think more because it's like a nostalgic thing for him.
Oh.
And, I mean, you and I used to watch that, like, when I first... The theme song weirdly, like, changes a lot throughout the seasons. But at least the first couple seasons for sure have, like, that classic Unsolved Mysteries theme song. Oh my god, and hearing it both, like, brings me back to childhood and it's like, oh... Like, I just have all these, like, fuzzy feelings about the 90s.
Yeah.
But it also gives me so much anxiety because I remember that show being really scary.
Yeah.
When we were kids. Like, it's not really meant to be scary, but it is freaky. Like, the theme song and just, the whole idea that there's all these creepy mysteries. I'm sure that show is in large part, like, why I'm fascinated with that stuff still.
Right.
It's just been burned in my brain, but, yeah, he just never, like, there was one about D.B. Cooper, the dude who jumped out of the plane, which that'll be a topic. And for me, one of, like, the most fascinating mysteries ever. Mm-hmm. And we watched that part of the episode, and I was like, this is insane. Like, I paused it to be like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And was freaking out to Nate, and he was just like, yeah, that's weird. Like, that's his response to every unsolved mystery. It's just like,
Nate.
yeah, that's weird. I'm like, how do you not? And even just, again, like, the aspect of, like, we will never find out. Like, isn't it weird to think that this crazy thing happened?
Right.
Somebody's either gone forever, or they're dead, and we have no idea. And he's always just like, yeah. Like, he just rolls his eyes at me like, yeah, that's really weird.
Yep.
Like, dude, what's wrong with your brain? So, but you get it.
Oh, I get it.
That's why you're here.
I'm right there with you. Before we had this podcast,
Yeah.
I would just do this research on my own.
Yeah.
I would just
You've
like
been on this.
dive into a topic.
Yeah.
Go through like Wikipedia as like a starting point, and then just like fall down the rabbit hole of the
It's so
internet
fun.
and try to figure out like what do I think happened.
Yeah.
Try to gather as much facts as I can, and then make my own decision as to what I think the most likely circumstance is.
Yeah.
And I'm most fascinated by the mysteries where I don't think I have a clear answer. Where I'm like, this is like my best guess, but like even that, I'm like,
Yeah. It doesn't really make sense.
Right.
Like this case. Yeah. There's nothing that 100% fits. Like, yeah, this makes sense. Nothing makes
Every
sense.
fact, instead of clarifying the other facts, just like comes out of left field, and you're like, oh, fucking TB test.
Yeah.
Oh, like
This
it's just
throws it off.
Yeah. It blows my mind every time.
Yeah. No, and I do the same thing with mysteries, and this is why when we started this podcast, we decided we'd make a big list of topics so that we could always have stuff to choose from so that we were never like, oh, okay. And I just copied a big list that I already had.
Yep.
That was just like, I just had literally a document on my desktop that's just titled weird shit. That I had just in alphabetical order, had a whole bunch of cryptids, unsolved cases, disappearances, murders, weird, I don't even know, UFO sightings, bizarre shit. And I was just like, cool, I'll just copy that into a new thing, and that'll be our Google Docs.
Yep.
It's been great.
It's been great. Yeah.
We've got a huge list.
It grows by the day.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Every time I hear, like, I'll think of something or I'll see something on like, I went through a whole, every time I'd watch an episode of Unsolved Mysteries, I'd be like, oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Add it to the list. Yeah.
So we got material for years.
For a long time.
Decades.
I think the last time we counted, which includes the topics we've done so far, but they haven't been that many, we were at 150
Yeah.
different, like, cases.
Right.
So, yeah, we got material for a while.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty good. So, yeah, so that's our first unsolved mysterious death episode.
First of many, because there's tons out there.
There are so many. And there are some big, mysterious death, mysterious murder cases that I'm sure will be bigger episodes.
Yep.
But there's so many weird... I actually had to choose between this unsolved murder case and another one, a disappearance that I really love. So I'll just be saving that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So that's episode 5
Wow.
of Unknowable.
It's wild.
Crazy.
Already
So
episode 5.
come find us wherever we are. Not in person. I mean, maybe if you want
don't.
to.
That sounded awful.
Maybe that sounds bad. Please do not stalk us. But stalk us on social media.
Yeah.
Find us on Facebook and Instagram, Unknowable Podcast. You can now find us on Tumblr.
Wow.
Because we have a Tumblr.
Right?
Hey, it's been cool.
You can follow us and Elisa Lam.
You can. Oh, man.
I wonder if she still has a Tumblr. I don't know. Oh, another weird detail.
Yeah?
Her Tumblr was updated after she died.
Oh, no.
More posts were posted.
What the fuck?
Which could have been a cue.
That's important.
Or somebody could have hacked into it.
Oh, now we got to find out if it exists. Okay, if it exists, it'll be in the show notes.
Yes.
I'm writing it down right now. Elisa Lam Tumblr. It's written. Yeah, so find us on Tumblr. Find us on, Instagram, Facebook, all those things. You can find our episodes on iTunes / Apple Podcast, whatever you call it. We are on Spotify. We're on Stitcher. We're on CastBox. We're on TuneIn. You can also find us at our website, unknowablepodcast.com. Technically, we're on Twitter, but I haven't updated it yet. I should do that.
We'll get there.
Yeah, Twitter, I feel like for podcasts, maybe not the biggest thing. I don't really know social media that well. But either way, find us. Tell us what you think. Tell us what we should talk about. Tell us if you want to be on the show. We are planning eventually to have guests.
Yes.
Here and there. But if you have any weird things that you've been a part of, that you've witnessed, let us know.
Please.
Please. And especially if you have anything local that we could go and check out.
New England.
Hit us up. Yeah.
Maine, New Hampshire.
Yeah. Any of that stuff. Vermont. There's lots of creepy shit in Vermont.
Yeah.
So, hit us up.
Yeah.
All right. Episode 5.
I'm Gray.
I'm Justine.
And this is Unknowable.
Unknowable. All right. Love you.